Now that we've spent 15 minutes on technical difficulties, what's up?
Hey, my friend. So nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So nice to connect. Um, I guess we are recording, right?
In multiple ways.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so do you feel like sharing what we are doing here, or should I?
Yeah, give it a whirl.
Yeah. Um, so this is a little experiment that we are running. We've been having for the last, what is it that we started speaking like for a year and a half or something like that. Yeah, and we've been having these calls, and um, I love them. And now during our last call, we were like, man, what if we just share them? Because it tends to happen that stuff comes up, um, and it can serve somebody that's on a similar path. So it's a little experiment with no expectations. We've indeed spent like 15 minutes just, like, how are we going to do this? Completely unprepared. But that's why I love this, because we are not trying anything, right? And yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I love it. And just to add on to it, I think, we both come from a place where we've put so many expectations on life, on ourselves, on business, and we see where those expectations take us. So the fact that we're both leaning into this just based on intuition instead of expectation, it feels right. And I love what you say. It's just a chance that our words may serve somebody else. And if we can do that and one person listens and gets something out of this, then amazing. If nobody listens, also amazing. We still get to talk. So we might as well share what we've been talking about.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. Like, I immediately feel like, because we're recording this, I'm not showing up as I normally show up during our calls. So maybe just saying that it's gonna help us just, yeah, it's just you and me, man. It's just you and me, and of course, the friends that decide to check this out. But like, I've noticed this come up, and that's a beautiful thing. Also, we are, and I'm not gonna say we because I don't want to speak for yourself. I don't want to make assumptions. I'm just gonna speak for myself. I am in a position of like daring to do more things, and the more the I don't know if more things is the word, but like taking steps in the direction I know I want to go, and that I've been postponing because I'm afraid of the unknown, or the emotions that come from stepping out of my comfort zone. And also this is that, like, the opportunity to just do it together. Also, I feel very safe here because you're my friend, you're there, and what a better way of stepping out of my comfort zone if I can do it with you. So yeah.
And you're very right to say we, because we obviously connected for a reason, and I think we're both into energy and attraction and all that. So there's a reason we met, and I think we've never tried to label it or put anything on it, which I also love. It's just been us chatting as friends and getting to know each other and sharing the wins and the hardships and all the details in between. And like, it reminded me that we actually did try this as a space, and funny enough, like, it was great, right? It was just very impromptu, and people joined, and that was back when my mind was so much on expectations and metrics and all that, but it was so in the moment, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. If we come into this again just free to step out of our comfort zone, to do things that feels right but have held us back from fear in one way or the other, then this is us stepping into our power and really embodying the thing that we both want to do, which is serve people. And what better way to do it than to do it with somebody who's shared that journey, who knows so much about what we're doing and how we're trying to do it. And I think that to me is the beauty in this.
Oh yeah, I feel that.
Mm.
So, what's gonna happen?
Who knows? It's funny because you know, like you mentioned, just you know, the little bit of resistance that came up, and I was, you know, like right before the call, I felt myself like, do I really want to do this? Like, is this exciting? Like, is this like these nerves are coming up? But you know, back to what we've always talked about, it's okay that it came up. It's okay that those feelings were there, and I think the progress that I see in myself, if I allow myself to say it, is that you know, I'm still here, right? I didn't, there was a voice in me that's like, you know, write to LSAO and say you can't do it. And I'm like, all right, that fear is okay that it's here. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay for anything that comes up. And just to be able to allow it to be present is really what it's all about, if I can say it, right? And put it in this big, broad category. It's that allowance that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to have, you know, those old patterns come up. And, you know, here we are anyway, because at the end of the day, it's just you and me talking. Right? It's it's just those old patterns that still want to come up and try to run the show. And then I sat there right before the call, and I just grounded myself, like closed my eyes, just breathe, told myself I'm loved. There's no expectations. I don't need to get anything out of this. And all I have to do is show up. And that's really what we get to do. And how amazing is that? And I get chills as I say it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm still like, there is something, yeah, I notice like a tension or something of like, you know, like I don't feel it's flowing like we normally flow and when we are just together. But back to your point, it's like it's fine that that's happening, you know. And that's a beautiful thing of, you know, like the inner work and the outer work, in the sense of there is this thing of if you feel your emotions fully, they will dissolve, you know. That's presence, letting go. And then sometimes I fall into the trap of, okay, I'm gonna feel my emotions fully till they are gone, and then I will be able to do stuff. You know, then I will be ready to take on new challenges. But then I just, you know, it doesn't happen. And then like stepping into the outer work, like basically deciding to hop on this call, is triggering all these limiting beliefs or fears or pain. So I get like the outer work or taking action on the outer level also exposes the inner pain, the inner blockages, raises the awareness, like, I mean, brings awareness to what's going on, and then we can feel it fully. So just I feel myself, you know, like this, there is this tension, there is this like more careful about what I'm gonna say or something like that. But it's okay, you know, it's here and it's part of this call, you know, part of this experiment.
And I can't help but bring it back to one of our last calls where you know, stepped into, you know, guiding me through something similar, and, you know, about being in the arena. And, you know, you even said putting yourself in the arena allows those emotions to come up, right? And it's that allowance of allowing whatever's there to be there, but putting ourselves in the situation to allow the uncomfortable feelings to come up. Because the uncomfortable feelings that come up aren't us regressing. It's not us taking a step backwards. It's allowing us to see it with new awareness. And I read something recently that's just been resonating so deeply. It's like healing isn't cyclical, or healing is cyclical. It's not linear. Most of us, again, want that straight line, but it's really cyclical. We keep learning the same lessons with different awareness. And this is it, right? This is us facing some of those same feelings, just with different awareness. But if we don't put ourselves in the arena, then we're not going to get that new awareness to see those same lessons with.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely. It's, yeah, it's daring to step into the arena.
Mm.
Like we are doing this, so like as imperfectly as this might be, or like like it's us here, and I think I feel that's really beautiful, and I'm thankful for this.
Yeah, me too. And it's just funny how it's come together, right? Because we've talked about it in different shapes or forms, right? And we wanted to do it as a space, and we did it once, and I honestly don't know why we never did it again. And then we even use Fathom to record the calls, and all these different things. But I think that's something that plays back too is timing, right? And something I wrestle with a lot recently is, am I shrinking in fear, or am I waiting for alignment, right? And it's a fine line, and it's a fine dance, and I'm far from having it figured out. But again, it's just something I challenge myself on a lot. Like, am I not doing this out of alignment, or am I not doing it out of fear? And I don't know the answer all the time. But I think it's something I continue to challenge myself on, and just, again, be aware of.
Yeah, and we are both projectors in human design, and there is a lot that we've been sharing about this and learning. We are meant to wait for the invitation, right? We are meant to be recognized. And I so resonate with your struggle, because I also find myself in this situation of, is the discomfort that I'm feeling, is the tension that I'm feeling a sign of my soul that I'm going against my energy? Or is it just my ego not wanting me to step into the arena when it's actually what my soul wants me to do? So it's like, isn't it that like the discernment of like, what is this discomfort telling me? Is it that I'm afraid and it's time to jump in the arena? Or it's like, I'm just forcing this and I shouldn't be forcing this. I better just trust life and the universe, and Do you recognize yourself in that?
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, it's essentially saying what I said in different words, and that's not like a negative spin on it, but it's just a different way to say it. And I don't know. Again, like, the ego wants me to have it figured out, but it's not something to figure out. It's just something to pay attention to. And I wonder with yourself too, like, how do you ultimately find that discernment, or have you found that discernment in any way?
It's a good question. It's indeed how you said, it's a dance, and I do notice that the deeper I go into my healing, the more slippery it is to figure out, or to find. Like, I find myself not forcing myself, for example, like I used to do. But they are like very subtle forcings, For example, and this is part of, I guess, why it's challenging to, and I'm not showing up completely as I do when we are just talking and this not being recorded, or when we know what we are talking is not going to be shared, right? Like, it feels more dangerous, right? But yeah, I've been inviting people to work with me the last week, last 2 weeks, and I invited 3 people. And I'm trying to be vulnerable and honest with myself, and stepping into the fear of being seen, and sharing some dangerous stuff, let's say. Because, like, one of my biggest fears is people to think like I'm a scammer, that people think I'm a manipulator. And I've been feeling like I'm getting 3 clients right now, and that's beautiful. And I want to help more people. And there's also, of course, this money thing of like, okay, people are gonna, maybe some of the people I'm guiding are gonna stop working with me after our 3-month commitment, and then I would love to guide more clients, and let's find those clients. Let's go and let's be proactive about it. So I had beautiful calls, and I invited people to work with me. And why am I sharing this is that dance, like I made those calls happen in the sense that I reached out to them. We had the calls and they were beautiful. There was a little bit of forcing there too, I'm not gonna lie. Because if I wouldn't be forcing, I maybe would have waited for things to happen. You see, like, just explaining you this, it's like shows you like the dance of that, like the force, and like even I find myself not having a clear point, but I want to say, like, I'm hopping on these conversations, and I felt I wasn't forcing anything. Well, if I look back, there was some fear there. There was some, what can I get out of this? And it's difficult to share this. It's very difficult to share this. But I still took action. I put myself in the arena, and I learned. So it's just like, what I think the point of this will be, it's a very subtle dance, but at the same time, if I'm just waiting all the time to have it right before hopping into the arena, I'm never gonna do it. And just when I hop in the arena and something happens, whatever it happens, it's just information for me to understand myself better, because I have that new information of having hopped there. And if it was perfectly aligned, it's like, oh, it shows me how aligned it is, how effortless it is. And if it's just, it's strange or something happened there or whatever, it's like, oh, I have new information to reflect on, and I can be more honest with myself, more aware of myself. So yeah, it's just an experiment all the time,
Yeah. It's amazing, and thank you for sharing it, even saying, right, or what you said, and being vulnerable to admit that. Because again, we want to have the perfect words, we want to say all the right things, and it can be a challenge. And as you were talking, something came up. Maybe it's both, right? Maybe it is fear and alignment at the same time, and maybe they're present for a reason. And I think that's something, we've talked a little bit about this, but the whole projector of waiting for the invitation is such a, can we swear on this? It's such a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something I've wrestled with for so long. And I think the invitation doesn't have to be, right, like waiting for something to arrive in your inbox or in your DMs or, a text message or whatever. Sometimes you create the invitation through waiting for the right moment for you to get over your fear and put yourself in the arena, right? And I think we can create that invitation and know when it's right? And know when we're pushing ourselves to put ourselves in the arena out of ego, or if we're putting ourselves in the arena out of love and out of a genuine desire to serve from a place of love. And then the invitation will happen in the right way that we don't necessarily have to have figured out. But if we just sit there, in Om pose, waiting for, things to arrive into our inbox, then it just, right, it can be so tricky to dance with that. But there's that creation element of it. And I think that's something that I'm learning more and more about too, because I'm still scared to ask people, right? It still brings up so much tension and fear and everything. And, like I had this moment where there were more leads than I'd ever had before. And every time I got to the ask, my state shifted. I shrank back into my wounded self, my energy. That like person that I was being wasn't that confident guy who was coming from a place of love. I was coming from a place of ego and a place of lack and a place of doubt. And I think when we come from those places, it's just a reminder of who we were and who we can be, and just continuing to embody that person that we want to be. And it's not an easy dance, right? Because we've got decades of experience of being that old person, and we only have years of being this new person, right? So it's like I see it as like the shutter of a window that's flapping in the wind, right? It's just like that flap of going back and forth, and trying to anchor ourselves in this is who we get to be. We don't have to choose to be that wounded person anymore.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah. And back to this arena thing, it's like, indeed, if you don't give yourself the opportunity to show up as who you want to be, you don't get to practice it. I mean, you don't get to exercise that. And then even when you quote unquote fail to be that person, when you are in the arena, there is some, it wasn't the end of the world, still a lot of information there to reflect on, more understanding about yourself, and you are creating more and more opportunities to show up as this highest version you can imagine of yourself. And that's never going to happen, indeed, if we are just hiding from the challenges, right? Yeah.
You said something earlier too that it just brought me back to it, and like I think we've talked about this before too. It's like I'm a very analytical person, and my old 9-to-5 guy, like my old 9-to-5 life was all about analytics and data, and I love it. Like I love playing with it. I love the stories I could tell with it. I love turning like data into insights and actions and things like that. But really, what all this is us putting ourselves out there and even getting the know, it's just data, right? And you said it, right? That's all it is. It's information. It's a data point that we can use. It's not a reflection of who we are. It's not a loss. It's not a mistake. It's not a failure. And it's that language that just, has always been there, right? And leaning into that fear, it's like, oh, wow, like really, it's just data, right? That's all it is. It's data, it's information. How do I use that information? Because ultimately it's there for me, it's there for you, it's there for all of us, and it's there to make us better, right? But it's that perception and that mindset that always gets in the way.
Yeah, and man, as you're saying that, comes up this quote. I think it's from Jordan Peterson. I heard it from him. I don't know if the quote is exactly, maybe I may be paraphrasing it. But it said something like, the world reveals to you in proportion to the steps you take. And I found that so powerful, because indeed, if I don't know, like just we are taking this step together, right? And the world, in this particular shape of like, in the context of having this goal, it's revealing my fears, it's revealing my blockages, it's revealing insights. It's just what you're saying is all this information or this data that is unavailable to us if we don't step into the challenge, we don't take the step, right? And it can be applied to inviting somebody to work with you, with me, having a challenging or uncomfortable conversation with somebody, with putting our boundaries, with everything, If we don't take that step, that information remains hidden. I love that, yeah. yeah, it was something like the world reveals itself to you in proportion to the steps you take. Something like that. Yeah.
I love it, and I love the context to it, and I think it's, you said it too. It's even the conversations that we have, right? And I being vulnerable here and sharing something that's very real and raw. Like my wife and I, for a long time, didn't talk. Right? We were just we were we were we were roommates. We were vessels passing each other, in the open sea of life. And recently, like we've been just boldly sharing everything that comes up, and part of it is like, especially for me, I used to take things so personally because of my wound, and it's not an excuse. It's just that was part of my pattern that I wasn't necessarily aware of. And now that I'm aware of it, right, when she says something and it triggers me, it's like, okay, here it is, right? Like, again, data, but we're being bold and being able to tell each other things that, like, for me, I swallowed. Like, she's very much about getting it out, and sometimes it comes out in the wrong ways, or maybe a way that is rooted in fear instead of love. But my coping mechanism, or my trauma response was fawn. I would shut down. I wouldn't say anything, or I would say something to appease her or please her, because I didn't want to feel the uncomfortableness of it. So I think that's something I've been reminding myself in this season too, is like, that's success, right? That's a win. It's not clients and money in the bank, but it's my everyday life, right? That's stuff that I get probably lost in sharing because it doesn't feel successful, right? It's not the society definition. It's not clients. It's not money. It's not like, but it's everyday life. And I think I forget that it's part of winning. It's part of life. It's part of, success, and how we define it determines ultimately like what we're after and what we're chasing. But it's as you said that, it just reminded me of that, like the conversations that we have, right? It's so important, and to say what's on your mind, even if it feels scary, even if it feels right, like vulnerable, even if it feels like it's gonna get you in trouble, whatever. If we don't share that truth, if we don't express it, if we don't let it out, it just stays trapped, and then it's a recipe for disaster.
Oh man, so many chills as you were sharing this, and thank you for. I celebrate your courage to share. And something, and it's a common theme today, it feels. And Jordan Peterson comes back to mind, and it's like I lately been, just to share how I'm experiencing, like the season I am, like he really was a voice for me that helped me, because I didn't have, and it's always difficult to speak about this because I have a beautiful relationship with my dad today, but he was emotionally unavailable and even absent, in the sense that my parents divorced when I was 3 years old, and we live in the same city, but I didn't see him so often. And even when I did, I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel heard. And I was always, led to believe, with the best intentions, that I didn't need a father. That in the sense of that the fact that my parents were not together, it wouldn't be a limitation for me. That I'm still whole or complete or something like that. And after struggling a lot with, after entering the work world, I started to realize how the lack of a father figure impacted me, and like a solid powerful father figure. And then I found like drawn to Jordan Peterson because of I felt, you know, and many people say it's like the father of the fatherless or something like that, and it really helped me. Now I don't resonate so much with. I feel like I've learned the lessons that he had for me, and yeah, just felt like sharing that before what I'm gonna say. But he said something that if you don't dare to speak your truth, you are not even there. You're not real, in the sense that you're not being you, because you're not, you know, speaking your truth. And it was something like dare to live the adventure of your life, of speaking your truth and see what happens, instead of what can I say to get what I want, right? And Mark Manson, also the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, he wrote a book before that one. It's called Models. He was like a dating coach before that. And he said something, and this is in the context of attracting women in an honest way, you know. And I always feel weird sharing this because, yeah. But it said, like, instead of you reaching out to a woman, or if you're a woman to a man, thinking what can you say to get her or to get him, is like just make it speaking your truth and seeing what happens, you know. And then you can always succeed, because speaking your truth depends only of you, and whatever happens, you're not you don't have these expectations about the outcome. That's external, we cannot control that, but you can control, quote unquote, you showing up as somebody that speaks his truth or her truth. So it's what you're saying, you know, daring to open up about those things. It's like allows them to be healed, to be seen, you know. It's very powerful.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that too about your dad. And I, as you're talking about it and sharing that, it's like I couldn't help but wonder, like, the lack of a father figure, does it create that core wound of needing to be seen and that fear of rejection to a degree? Because my dad was around, but he wasn't, right? If that makes sense. He was the manly man, everybody loved him. He was always at work. Work was his life. He provided. When he came home, he would eat and crash in front of the TV. Like, very rarely had any sort of deep conversations or anything with him. But he was there. Like, I looked up to him because it seemed like he was living his life to the fullest, and he was like being that man and providing for his family. Like, we lived a great life for 17 years because of his hard work, but he wasn't there, right? And I didn't speak about emotions. The only emotions I saw out of him were him being silly and cracking jokes, or him being pissed off and like beating the shit out of me with a belt because I was bad. And right, I couldn't help but wonder, right? Like, does that lack of father figure, is that where that core wound of, like, you know, that fear of rejection and that fear of not being seen and feeling good enough about ourselves? Like, I wonder if there's a relation to that.
I don't know. But hearing you speak, like I felt deeply seen by my mom, and I didn't feel seen by my dad. You know, like, for example, I was really into I don't know, music, and then I was into some video games, and I was into like more nerdy stuff. I don't know if you know this game, the card game, Magic the Gathering. Yeah. I was into that too, into manga and anime. Like, I love drawing and stuff. And he you know, loved horses and like cars and like motorcycles, you know. He's really a very practical man, super talented, you know. It's really like a genius, you know, in a way. And I do look up to him in so many ways. and we healed our relationship, and that was a beautiful thing, and it's better than ever. But it was always like, and I share this with him. I always felt like he thought I was gay or like effeminate or something, you know, or like my interests were not the right interests. Like, oh, you have that, but why don't you buy a camera instead of buying cards, you know? Just like he never played with me that I can remember, of course, or interested in my interests, you know? So I always felt I needed to put up a persona, I needed to be a bit tougher. Yeah, and at the same time, you know, and I think it has to do a little bit with, you know, just pain in humanity. Like, I'm sure that the parents of the fathers of our fathers were also not emotionally available, and there is this idea of masculinity, and like masculinity, you shouldn't feel your emotions. So to be, you know, they also have trauma there. Yeah, there is something about masculinity that seems to be. I also heard again from a church, and that's why I said this stuff before, because we are talking about things that I've learned a lot from him, and he said like the father is the intermediary. I don't know if that's the word, that's how you pronounce it, between the world and you. So the father is the one that plays the world. That's why the world is, you know, scary. It's, looking through the lens of, you know, how normally we see the world. It's like the world doesn't care how you feel. You know, the world, it's a rough place. So the dad kind of plays that role. But the beautiful thing is your dad loves you. So it's going to play that role, but with love, not mercy, like not without mercy as the world would do. So it's like teaching you how to speak your truth, how to stand for your, you know, it's that kind of, I don't know, strong foundation. Maybe that's why, look, what I told you, like when I stepped into the world, when I started working, I felt like, oh shit, I'm not meant for this. Because my mom overprotected me, not because she was, you know, that was the role of my dad, you know. Yeah, the best answer I can give you from the question is like, I don't know, but I think there should be something regarding not feeling seen and wanting to be seen, because I didn't feel seen by my dad. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure people have studied this, and there's probably some information out there, but it just, you know, it was a parallel that I drew as you were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I wonder, because, you know, again, like bringing it back to my situation, like my dad was into cars, right? He was a mechanic, but before that he was a race car driver, and he always talked about that, and still to this day, I just wanted to get you in a race car. If you ever got in a race car, like you would be hooked, blah blah, like. And I was like, but I didn't want to, right? Why can't you support me in what I wanted to do? And I played sports, and I think I looked to sports as kind of like that masculine outlet. And, you know, like I remember recently having a session with a guy I met, and, you know, he talked about that masculine energy. And I think sometimes we lose touch with it, especially when we have like sort of the absent father figures. And just like, for me, like playing sports was how I let that masculine energy out, and it's a state, it's a persona of me that I can tap back into, because that's where I felt confident and strong and in my power, and I think it's something we tend to maybe forget, is where we can step into that masculine type of energy, where it was for us previously and where it is for us now. And it brings up a question too, and I asked my wife this, and it's something I haven't been able to necessarily put my finger on too. It's like, what does masculine mean? And I'm curious, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm curious, like, if I ask you that question, what it means to you.
Thank you for sharing in the question. I don't know. Again, like in a sense that to really answer it with extreme clarity or something like that. It's not something that I've like studied or I got intentionally into. But of course I can, that's why you're here. We can explore. And that's a beautiful thing, because I can take now, it's like I have my Claude AI and I program it to be my guide, you know, with many things. It's really beautiful. I would love to share this with you in some opportunity. And I could ask it, you know, and it will give me something, but it's not the point. Like, we are here exploring, and that's the beautiful thing. I don't know, like when I think about femininity, and I'm very in touch with my feminine side as an artist, being raised by mostly women. So it's this kind of energy that flows. And when I think about masculinity, immediately I feel more like this. I don't know if you can see me. It's like more like, I feel like empowered. I feel ready. You know, more like a warrior energy in a way. And what I love, that's how I experience it, you know. It's like more animalistic also for me. Dangerous in the good sense of the word. I would say like a healthy masculinity is dangerous. Like, you're capable of defending yourself or doing harm. And of course, we don't want to do that, ideally, if you're healed, but you are capable of it. You're not at the mercy of whatever happens to you. You're strong. And yeah, providing also, it's there, I would say. Engaging with the world, with confidence. I don't know, that's coming up for me. I don't know how that feels for you.
Oh, I love it, and thank you for sharing it. And like, I haven't studied this, or I haven't necessarily asked AI either, because I have something similar. I call it my second brain. But it just, right, it's one of those things that it just has kind of come up in different contexts in my exploration of just life and myself and everything. And it's like, I think you hear the word toxic masculinity so much, right? And there is a degree of that, and right, that's probably more from a wounded place than necessarily like a healthy place. But really, what is healthy? Like, what really distinguishes it? What is right? Not right and wrong, but right. Well, I think too, there's no one definition, but what it means to you and how you ultimately embrace it and embody it. And I think I hear so much in myself and what you say, because I was around my mom and sister mainly, and even to the point where, like, I have a lot of female friends, and to some degree it's easier to talk to them because you don't have to play that role of like being the guy and talking about your conquest and how great you are and how much money you make and all that. Like, they don't necessarily talk in that same way, so in some instances it's easier to relate and talk to them than it is to the bros beating their chest about how many women they've slept with and how much money is in their bank and how big their car is and all that kind of stuff. But it's like there's still a level of like feeling strong and proud and brave and courageous that feels masculine and that feels a part of me. But I think too, that's kind of like the hard part, is some of that I felt like was repressed in me through my mom, because I think she saw some of the qualities that she didn't like in my dad and didn't want me to embody them. So in a way, I probably suppressed them a lot. And I'm learning now, like, even with anger, right? Because anger is a big part of my story, right? Like, I have a really bad temper. But how do you express anger in a healthy way too? And like, that anger, I feel like, is very masculine, right? To let it out, because usually like the anger comes with aggression, and that aggression feels very animalistic, to your point. And it's like, that anger needs to be released in a way. And what is a good, like, healthy way of doing it other than like slamming doors and punching walls and like shouting and stuff like that, which are like the typical things that come out. And even in my own story, right? Like, I remember my mom wouldn't let me go to a party one time, and I just went and like punched a hole in our wall. And right, that was my aggression and my anger coming out. I was like, that's very masculine, but I just punched a hole in the wall. Now I'm in trouble and I can't go to the party and I've got to pay to have the wall patched. So like, but like, you know, it's being able to let those things out in a way that's doesn't meet society, right? But it's a healthy way to express it and let it out, which I think again is very masculine.
Yeah. And I'm just noticing like we have 10 minutes of this call, so I'm just keeping that in the back of my head. Two things came to mind while like not too much. Yeah, I just felt two things coming up. One was like there is something about the yin and the yang, the you know, this dance between the feminine and the masculine, you know. And I see it in my wife. She's super feminine, but she's also very masculine in so many ways, and I love how she integrates both, you know. And I find there's a lot of femininity in me, you know. And lately I've been connecting more with my masculine side, and I realized something similar to you, you know, like it's been repressed, not explored, not encouraged, indeed. So yeah, I just, this image of yin and yang, like, and the line between the you know, like that fine line there, it's so powerful. And then the other thing that came up, and when you say like the anger coming up and how to express it, and I do feel, and this is very personal, like I do feel sometimes I love to express my anger or my negative feelings, but I notice that it's better when I do it on my own and when nobody is there to receive that energy in a way, because it tends to create more, like ideally I'm releasing this energy, but I do notice it's not just simply releases, but it affects somebody else. So it didn't really only release it, but you know, I kind of shared it with other people. So let's say if I'm alone and I would love to just scream and do something, like I find that very cathartic. But if I'm angry and my wife is around, you know, I don't find it wise to just pour that anger, you know, with her or something like that. And what comes up is like just feeling the emotion arise and being there with it. And we know this, and at the end, isn't this the ultimate, the first and the ultimate work, right? Like just if we feel whatever is coming up, without trying to change it, it's gonna dissolve. And it's gonna unlock our energy, and we're gonna get access to this joy, this peace, this love that is our natural state. Like I feel joy, love, peace are not even emotions. It's just like our natural state. And then emotions is like another layer of disturbances, energy disturbances that happen. So just anger being one of them, instead of expressing it or repressing it, it's just being there with it and seeing what happens, right? And then it dissolves, you know?
Yeah, I love how you say it in terms of, you know, expressing it, because that's also something, you know, like if I bring my kids into it, right? Like they've seen me be angry and how I've reacted to it. And then I see them and how they express their anger. And really, they're just doing what I did. And like, how can I get mad at them for expressing their anger in the ways that I modeled to them? And like a recent example, like probably 3 months ago, I got this, no, it was more than that. Anyhow, I got an email basically saying like I owed a bunch of money from a car rental from
You told me, yeah.
from this past summer when I was in the U.S. And like it sent me over the edge. It was like I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to like break my computer. Like just, I was so pissed, but I was like, something told me to just, like, I went outside. My son had a baseball bat. I picked up the baseball bat and I just started to beat the shit out of a tree, and we have a tire swing. And like, I came back and like my kids are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm great." Like I just let out my anger. And it was like, right, like maybe that wasn't the best way, but it didn't hurt anybody. I didn't break anything. I didn't swear. Like I didn't, like, I wanted to do all those things, but I went outside and I just, like, I let it out, and it was gone. Right. And it's modeling that in a way. And again, one could probably argue maybe that wasn't the best way to do it, but it's, if we can't sit with it, which takes practice and it takes time, right? And sometimes it just needs to fucking get out. It's like, how do we model that if we can't just sit with it? And model that in a way, especially for us fathers too, who didn't have the healthy way for it to be modeled to us. Like, that's something that comes back to me, is like, how can I, if I can't sit with it and let it be, how do I let it out in a way that shows a good example that anger is okay, right? And it brings me back to, like Tara Brach said, every emotion is about life loving life, right? And I've heard as well, anger is a secondary emotion, right? So like underneath it is something else, but it's there, right? And it needs to be either dissolved and felt, or it needs to be let out in some way. And again, how do we continue to do it in a way that's healthy, not only for us but for those around us? Because like you said, you don't want to project that energy onto those around you, especially your wife and kids. We've got 4 minutes left. Just checking in on time. Do we want to cap it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Like I really loved it today, and it feels so natural, so healing. I feel so safe just sharing this with you, and we stepped into the arena and we shared. We spoke our truth, and we saw what happened, and we can reflect on that, And I really thank you for being here.
Yeah, and thank you for daring to push this, right? And I don't mean that in a way that like you pushed me to do this. You didn't force me to, but you felt it, right? And I felt the energy and the pureness behind it. So I dared to step into the arena with you, and despite my my fears and my anxieties, right, we did it, and we just collected some data. It's like high five to us, right? And I love that. This is what these calls have always been about, right? Is just us being able to be open and share real shit, right? We're not hiding behind anything. We're not, dancing around anything. We're not performing for each other or trying to get anything out of anything, right? We're just being two guys who are being real and open and honest with each other. And that's not that the world needs more of this, but the world needs more of this. So thank you for the continued push to keep doing this, and for the space to feel safe to do it.
Thank you, my man. Okay, let's stop it here, right?
That's a wrap.
Maybe it's nice to address maybe one person or 10 people. It doesn't matter even how many they are, but if you reach to this point in the conversation, thank you. We see you. Feel free to reach out to us, and we are looking forward to keep sharing our journeys to inspire you and to inspire each other, Dallas and me, and we are all healing each other, helping each other heal through this. So thank you, and we see you next time.